Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the CV90105 TML, a premium pack Swedish light tank that currently sits at 9.0 BR and includes 2000 GE and 15 days of premium time, along with the TML itself for $60 USD. I'll go over its stats, how it plays, its strengths and weaknesses, and then go over whether or not I think that the CV90105 TML is worth purchasing or not. Please subscribe if you have not done so already, as that means the absolute world to me, but either way, let's get into it. As always, I'll place its stats here on the left side of the screen in order to expedite the video. In short, its key stats are its turret traverse, low armor, and high speed. Now for how it plays, the TML plays fairly simply, as it is a light tank. Being that it can't take hits from nearly anything in game outside of hits from HMGs hitting its sloped frontal armor, the TML is best kept either hidden at the flanks of the battlefield or behind cover and away from the front lines. Thankfully, it has a good enough cannon that can work well at medium to long ranges, so this is doable. Although it only has up to 353mm of armor pen at point blank range and 10 meters, dropping to only 265mm or 278mm at 500 meters and 30 degrees depending on your APF SDS shell of choice. Primarily though, the TML works best when you utilize its speed, along with its thermals, stabilizer, and cannon, as it flanks very well. The TML has good enough pen with its 105mm cannon that it can destroy or severely damage most enemies from the side, lending to its flanking capability. Further, it can scout enemies, leading to your team's more frontline units such as the Terms, XM1, or other MBTs to be able to dispatch the tanks that you might not be able to safely attack. Further, going with its flanking role, it can cap bases quite well, but should resign to primarily capping side bases only, as the middle tends to be difficult to cap for light tanks, including the TML. Ultimately though, the TML is basically a light tank's light tank, and it really doesn't do anything sufficiently different from other light tanks that would lend it to other roles in battle. It does have Gen 2 thermals however, which will lend to it being a more efficient flanker in night matches and, when necessary, in day matches. Additionally, the TML features 4 ammo options, with 2 being APF SDS, one of those being better at an angle, the other one being better at attacking flat surfaces, and also Heat FS and HESH ammunition. All said though, its roles lead to it being great for flanking, capping, and scouting, but you should avoid close range fights, being on the front lines and brawling. And now for its strengths and weaknesses, and to start, for its strengths, it has a good cannon that supports a variety of ammunition, which will allow you to select ammunition based on the enemy that you're facing or the situation at hand. Second, it has great speed and acceleration. This helps you to fulfill the role of light tank and flanker quite well. For its third strength, on top of its speed, the TML has excellent maneuverability, which is caused by its lightweight and good power to weight ratio. In addition, it has good gun magnification, though its field of view is fairly poor, making it difficult to spot closer enemies if you're using the gunner's sight. For its fifth strength, the TML has an excellent smoke grenade array, allowing you to fire 2 sets of 7 smoke grenades at a time, which provide great frontal coverage to keep you hidden. Sixth, it has 2nd gen thermal sights for both the gunner and commander. For its 7th strength, it has a great stabilizer and laser rangefinder, though these are to be expected for tier 6 premium tanks. On top of this, even though it has weak exterior armor, the TML features a 10mm layer of internal armor that protects the crew around the entirety of the tank, excluding the rear of the tank, and should help to protect from shrapnel and HMGs either at a range or at odd angles. And finally, the TML features premium RP and Silverline bonuses. And now for its weaknesses. First, obviously it has thin armor. Things like BMPs and other autocannon based vehicles will absolutely annihilate you typically from any angle. Secondly, it has a turret that sits in the rear of the vehicle, which may be awkward for some players. Third, it's actually fairly large for a light tank, leaving you to be a bigger target for enemy players. And fourth, it has a large uncondensed ammo rack that lies in the rear of the vehicle, making it easier to kill you from just about anywhere and from any angle. And now for my final recommendation and ratings. So ultimately, the CV90105 TML's main strengths are its speed and agility, 2 attributes that are largely the same. It has deceivingly good agility, as it has a fraction of the horsepower, for example, that the XM1 has, although it also has a fraction of the weight. This low weight combined with decent horsepower makes the TML into one of the most agile light tanks in game, and while not quite as fast as the XM1 or similar MBTs, the point of the CV is to be a light tank. tank. This entails slipping through areas unnoticed and then flanking without warning. As one of the only top tier premiums that is considered to be a light tank, it occupies a special niche that very few other vehicles can fill. While it isn't as well armored or as quick as the XM1, or as well armed as the Leopard A1A1L44, it still has good speed, a good cannon, and enough armor to ward off at least some threats, all while scouting for your team and killing those who are trying to flank your allies. It will die to aircraft with ease, however, regardless of if they're firing MGs, cannons, rockets, dropping bombs, or whatever on you, so staying hidden is key to your survival when using the TML. Now for some quick ratings, I'll give its cannon a 7 out of 10, as it has sufficient power, good accuracy, is stabilized, and most importantly, can carry a variety of ammunition. While it is not as good as the L44 at 9.0 BR or the T55 AM1's 100mm cannon at 8.3 BR, it is still perfectly capable of destroying most or all tanks from the front at its own BR and below. It starts to suffer when facing 9.3 BR tanks and above, however, but this should be largely circumvented if you flank your enemies and hit them on their weak side armor. For survivability, I give it a 4 out of 10 because while it can't stop most HMGs from most angles at the front and from some angles at the side, it will start to struggle with autocannons on pretty much every side and at every angle, and will be penned by nearly every single type of normal non-auto cannon. Additionally, the 10mm of internal armor helps to stop HMGs and shrapnel from bombs. While it isn't enough to stop the big stuff, it can mean the difference between life and death when it comes to the small things hitting your vehicles, again such as HMGs, some autocannons, HE shells, and shrapnel from bombs. For maneuverability, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. While it isn't as fast as the XM1 and is comparable to the AMX-30 Super in terms of straight line speed, the TML has excellent maneuverability and still great top speed, making this vehicle ideal for flanking. With lightweight and a good power to weight ratio, it can move extremely well off and on road and can turn on a dime. It only loses some score because while being fast for even a light tank, it feels like it could be a smaller vehicle and also lighter, as well as a touch faster on the top end. Overall, I give the TML a 7 out of 10 with special weight being given to its cannon and maneuverability, being that those are this tank's focus, with its poor survivability being somewhat of an afterthought on this type of vehicle, being that it is not made to take hits in the first place. For value, at least when compared to the other high BR premium tank packs, I give this a 6 out of 10 because while it does have all the great bonuses like 2000 GE and 15 days of premium time that we've come to expect from high BR premium packs, the vehicle itself isn't quite as good, for example, as the Terms or the versatile XM1. It is still a great vehicle to grind with, however, which makes it a solid value. That said, the TML is designed entirely to be on the offense, as it has a powerful cannon with better options for ammo than even the vaunted XM1, Gen 2 thermals that look amazing, great acceleration and good top speed, a lower profile, and it can scout, all while unfortunately having poor armor. The armor is hardly good enough to hinder BMP2 or 3 shells from the front, as most will still get through. You just have to avoid being hit at all costs, which at this BR can be very difficult. You very much need to make sure that you are the first to shoot, otherwise you will die. Interestingly, even though this is a fairly light vehicle, it has a higher visibility than the XM1 and Leopard A1A1L44, being 8% more visible than the XM1 and 21% more visible than the premium Leopard. This goes in direct contradiction with the light tank role of this tank, as it is supposed to be smaller and lighter than its competition, and is, per War Thunder, larger than the two vehicles it will have to compete with for purchase. So, should you purchase the TML? I'll say a hard yes if you are in one of two situations. One, if you're trying to grind the Swedish ground tech tree, as it does a great job of doing that, and two, if you don't care about which nation you're grinding, you just want a good tank and you already own the XM1 and possibly the Terms. In all, based on armor, versatility, and even in some instances, mobility, the XM1 at 9.3 VR is the superior tank to the CV90105 TML at 9.0 BR. The XM1 is just a better overall vehicle and still the gold standard for high BR tanks, although one could argue that the Terms has taken that spot. Either way, the CV90105 TML is an excellent light tank to help grind the Swedish ground tech tree and is a ton of fun. While it isn't as good of a value as the XM1 or the Terms, you will not be disappointed with the TML, so long as you don't put yourself in a position to get hit. This is not a beginner's vehicle, as no top tier premium is, but it goes doubly so for the CV90105 TML. So if you expect to dominate right right away, you probably will be disappointed, as no safeguards to protect you, namely in the form of armor like the Terms and the XM1 have, or even as big of a cannon as the Leopard A1A1L44. It is, however, fast, it can scout, and is totally sufficient to flank and spank enemies. So is it worth it? Yes. There are still better vehicles for your money, and this is not an easy vehicle to master. Either way, I'm glad I own it, and I think that most people who buy it will be as well. But that said, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Please like, comment, subscribe. You guys know the dealio. That said, however, I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.